Hi everyone, my name is Oscar. Welcome to my channel for linguists. Today's lesson is an introduction to pragmatics. In this lesson, I'm going to figure out on the three things. The first one is meaning of pragmatics. The second one is concept used in pragmatics. But also I'm going to figure out on the difference between pragmatics and semantics. Pragmatics is a level of linguistics which concerns with the use of language in social context and the way people produce and comprehend meanings through language. The term pragmatics was coined in the 1930s by psychologist and philosopher Charles Morris. Pragmatics was developed as a subfield of linguistics in the 1970s. In other words, pragmatics is the study of meaning as communicated by a speaker or writer and interpreted by a listener or reader. It involves an interpretation of what people mean in a particular context and how the context influences meaning of what is said. Generally, pragmatics refers to the study of language use in a given context. So, under this field of linguistics, which is pragmatics, it deals with the context of language use. So, with pragmatics, meaning is obtained from the context in which language is used. So, without context, we cannot get the meaning of utterances. And through this subfield of linguistics, the meaning of utterances are derived from the context, and there is possibility to have more than one meaning according to the given context in which an utterance is used. So different contexts have different meaning. So I can conclude to say that every context has its meaning in the same utterance. Yeah, another thing I said that I'm going to figure out on the concept used in pragmatics. There are so many concepts used in pragmatics, but in this lesson I'm going to figure out on the four concepts in pragmatics, which are context, utterances, speech acts, and inferences. I'm going to start with context. In pragmatics, context refers to the surrounding, circumstance, or setting that clarify the meaning of an utterance. In other words, it can be defined as the environment of language use in which an utterance is interpreted. In pragmatics, we have linguistic context and situation context. Linguistic context refers to the actual discourse that constitutes a phrase or a sentence to be interpreted. So in a linguistic context, meaning is derived from a sentence or a phrase itself. While situation context refers to non-linguistic environment in which sentences or utterances are happening in use. It means under this kind of context, meaning is derived from the situation in which a sentence or an utterance is spoken. So under this kind of context, a listener must be very careful when interpreting utterances. The listener should interpret the utterance by looking the situation. So for this context, it means the listener must look over the situation in which an utterance or sentence is spoken. For example, from this utterance, someone can say, "We survive." So, "we survive" can have different meaning when they are used in different contexts. In a university situation, when students say "we survive," it can mean that they have passed the exams. But also in desert areas, when people say "we survive," it means people are still alive. But also even in job place, when someone say "I'm survive" or "we survive," it means they are still in a job position. Another concept is utterance. An utterance is any unit of speech which has meaning depending on a given context. It ranges from a single word to a sentence and even a paragraph. Sometimes it is merely a sound, but it has meaning in a given context. Example, someone can say "wow" or "oh," "ah," and etc. So these are just sound but have meaning in a given context of language use. So when someone say "wow," it means she or he shows surprise about something else. And when someone say "oh" in a given context, sometimes it may indicate someone is wondering about something else that has occurred. So, and etc. So we have various sounds. Sometimes we can get their meaning in a given context, but without context, we will see other noise. So words and sentences in a spoken form, when they are used in a particular context, are also utterances. So by concluding this part, utterances, these are words, sentences, or any sounds. In short, we can say these are language in a spoken way. So any word or any unit of speech or any unit of sound which is spoken via oral media is called utterance. Another concept is speech acts. A speech act is an utterance that serves a certain function in communication. These are utterances that perform an action. So through these speech acts, we can perform an apology, we can perform greeting, we can perform request, complaint, invitation, compliment, but sometimes we can even perform refusal when you are refusing about something else. So we can perform by using speech acts. So a speech act may contain just a word, one word, as in sorry, to perform an apology. But sometimes it may include several words or a sentence. For example, "I'm sorry, I have forgot your birthday," to show or to perform an apology. So speech acts include real life interaction and require not only knowledge of language but also appropriate use of that language within a given culture. Another concept is and inferences. So in pragmatics, inferencing is a process of reaching a conclusion from non-factual evidence. Thus, inferences are already conclusions based on observation and pure knowledge. So when we are speaking of inferences, so these are those conclusions that we make from those facts that we have known in our life. So we can conclude from our fact that we have from general to specific, but sometimes from specific to general. So these ones are inferences. And another thing that I said I'm going to figure out is the difference between pragmatics and semantics. The main difference between semantics and pragmatics is that the semantics study the meaning of words and their meaning within sentences, whereas the pragmatics study the same words and meanings but with emphasis on their context as well. Let us see other differences between pragmatics and semantics. Semantics study the words and their meaning in a language, while pragmatics studies study of words and their meaning in a language with concern to their context. So in pragmatics, context is something which is matter than anything. It means in pragmatics, when we use language or when we speak in a given context. So that's why in pragmatics we can have more than one meaning of the same word. Why? Because every context has its meaning. So the same word we can use in different contexts and may have different meaning according to the context in which word have been used. But also semantics focuses mainly on the significance of the meaning of word in literal sense, while pragmatics focuses on the meaning of word according to the context and their inferred meaning as well. So in semantics, literal sense or literal meaning matters, while in pragmatics, non-literal meaning due to the use of context of language use matters. So in pragmatics we have inferred meanings, and these meanings we can obtain from the speaker's intended meaning. But also semantics study the literal meaning, as I said before, while pragmatics study the intended or the inferred meaning as well. So in pragmatics we have the meaning of a speaker, the meaning intended by a speaker. Someone can speak something, but he or she is meaning beyond of what she or he has intended. Unlike semantics, which focuses on the literal meaning of words, pragmatics focuses on inferred meaning perceived by the speaker and reasoner, who use manner, place, and time of an utterance to create meaning. Thank you for watching to my YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe, to comment, to like, and to share. Goodbye.